What's that? Okay, we are on. Good evening, everyone. It's January 23rd of 2020. We're here for a regular Newmarket School Board meeting. Thank you all for coming. We'll begin the meeting with a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of America and to the republic for which it stands, one God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. The superintendent will join us shortly. He's upstairs. I'm going to go a little out of order so we can, people don't have to wait around if they don't want to be here entire meeting. Chris Hawkins, our school district moderator, has come to see us tonight as he does every year. Thank you, Chris, for coming. He's going to give us an overview of the moderator's rules of procedure and remind everybody that our deliberative session for the school district is on February 1st at 9 o'clock in the brand new cafetorium, so everybody can take a look at that as well. Chris, it's all yours. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, it's time for my annual visit to the school board. Several of you have heard this pitch before, but I think it's helpful to come back. Just remind everybody of what we're doing. The deliberative session is February 1st, 9 a.m. As you said, Mr. Chairman. Hopefully you had an opportunity to glance at the rules. I just dropped them off at the meeting at the school district office this morning. They haven't changed from last year. They're pretty simple, and it's very rare that I have to actually invoke any of them because people know how the meeting works, and it runs in a fairly orderly fashion without me having to do anything, which is the best possible way, from where I stand, to run the meeting. My experience of doing this for the past 6 or 7 years, it feels like 150, but it's only been 7 years, and this is what I say to the school district, to the school board, and to the town council every year. It's very helpful if you organize yourselves in terms of looking at the warrant articles. If you can have prepared someone to make the motion, no, they don't even have to make a motion. They're going to go on the warrant unless somebody acts on them. But if there's questions, for you to decide among yourselves who's going to be particularly responsible for addressing questions about particular articles so that things can go smoothly. The more organized we are collectively as the people responsible, the better the meeting runs in my experience. So I strongly encourage you to do that. And just kind of let me know if you hand me a version of the article, a draft paper version of it, and I'll know Article 2, the chairman's going to address that. For example, I can turn to him if a question comes up. And again, this is all things to help make the meeting run more smoothly. I've been to the moderator training in Concord put on by the Municipal Association. I go every year. And listening to some of the war stories that get told there, our meetings run way, way smoother than in many other towns, which is a compliment to the voters of the district, really, and how alert and how well organized people are coming in to these meetings. So I'm not going to go over the rules in detail. Like I said, they haven't changed. One of the things that came up, an idea that came up at the training that I think is a good idea, is to have the rules published in the town report every year, and I think that's a darn good idea. I'm going to suggest that to the town administrator. The voting session will be on March 10th. Of course, we have the presidential primary in between, which is going to be a very busy election year. I want to take the opportunity to say to members of the public that people who are interested in volunteering on election day for the election process as a check-in clerk or for helping out the supervisors, please contact Terry Littlefield at the town office or Penny Botterman upstairs, and they'll get you oriented in the right direction, and we can always use the help. I also anticipate for the presidential primary, I go into Miss McGilvery's civics class. The students who are old enough volunteer and help out. It's a tremendous experience. We do that the last two or three presidential primaries. We've done that. It's a great experience. Any time spent with the kids is a great experience. So we look forward to doing that again this year and seeing everybody at deliberative session and at the election. Are there any questions, comments, concerns?
None for me, Chris. I just wanted to publicly thank you for your job you do every year. I know a few years ago we had a little snow issue, and you skillfully and addressed that. And yeah,
There'd be
yes,
a difference
you did.
of opinion on that.
You did. Well, my opinion is that you did, and I think all of us would say that. It's not you don't get a lot of thanks, but it takes. Your skill is often in what doesn't happen because of your planning, and we really appreciate it.
Yeah, honestly, it's Terry Littlefield and Penny and Donna do the majority of the work, and I just show up and wear a tie and smile at people. So it's really very easy for me in that
You're
respect.
humble.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I wanted to say something else, but I forgot what it was, so I'll say nothing.
Thank you. We'll definitely encourage the town, and maybe we can publish it too on our website. These rules.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you very much, Chris.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Chris.
So next up, happy to hear from the robotics team.
Hello, my name
Sierra.
is, yeah, oh, can I start?
Yep.
Okay. Hello, my name is Sierra Yang, and I am the robotics team chair, and I'm representing the team tonight because currently we have a meeting at the high school, so not all of the team can be here, unfortunately. And I'd just like to start by first thanking our coaches for this season, Miss Whedon, who's here with us today, and Mr. Kasu, who is our new IT tech director or person at the high school this year. He stepped up to fill Mr. Lindquist's place, who left the school. He left the school last year, and we've been having a great season so far. So I'd also like to thank our sponsors for this season. So we've gotten a lot of money thanks to work with Ms. Whedon and some of our team, with the most coming from a grant that Ms. Whedon got for our team from the New Hampshire Department of Education, a STEM initiative grant for over $2,000. I believe it was $7,240, as well as our next level sponsors for $1,000 to $2,000, which was Next Era Energy in Seabrook, as well as, and then we have our gold level, which is $750 or more, and that was Ekman Construction and the Whedon family. They donated a good portion of money as well. And so far, with the money that we have from last year and the money we have from this year, we have about $15,000, and we have earned about, or gotten about $12,000 this year. So that's something that we're very fortunate to have gathered this year, as robotics does cost a lot of money to run. Our season started, or the official season started earlier this month with the kickoff at SNHU, and we now have a 7-week build season to construct and program our robot for our first competition in February, the last weekend of February, which will be in Salem, New Hampshire, and then we also have another competition in March, the last week in March, in Bedford, New Hampshire.
Great. So Sierra, last year I recall your robot had to pick up a ball and lift it and put it in a cylinder and a couple other functions. What's the principal focus of this year's
So
machine?
this year's is actually Star Wars themed, and when we went to the kickoff, they actually had the R2-D2 that was in the movies, in all the Star Wars movies, at the kickoff, which was very nice to see. So this year's challenge is called Infinite Recharge, and it's a bit of a similar concept where we have to pick up smaller balls. They're about the size of dodgeballs this year, as well as turn some discs on the field and then hang from some teeter-totter bars. So those are the main functions this year.
And how many folks are on the team this year?
I think we've got about 15. Yeah, 12 to 15.
I'm sorry, this stuff fascinates me. But have you one of the biggest challenges is the leadership. Like, who makes the calls? How do you govern yourselves? Have you after year now have a system in that you know who's kind of like there's an executive committee? I mean, there must be so many decisions to make.
Yeah, so basically a lot of robotics is just, since we meet 6 days a week, with most of our time on the weekends, it's who can make it on what days. So usually I make it most days, and I've sort of adopted a more leadership role where I preside over most of what's going on. And then other teams, we'll split up into teams when we're actually in the meeting. So there will be a coding team, there's going to be people on marketing, there's going to be people on design, there's going to be people on computer-aided design, which is creating 3D models, and then on actually constructing the robot, and then electrical as well. So it's sort of like you have different groups, and those groups can be fluid, but usually you have a mentor. So some people from our community come in, some retired engineers and computer scientists, and they come in. Sometimes they head those groups as well. And then at the beginning or the end of each meeting, we usually reconvene and sort of go over what was accomplished.
Great. Anybody else have any questions?
I know last year we got a special sneak peek of the robot. I would love to have that happen again if you guys could.
Yeah, definitely.
I know it's a lot of work to get it here, but I look forward to that too. And it's neat to see, Mrs. Wheaton, thank you for the donation that your family made, but also the amount of donations year after year that you have been able to bring in, and we appreciate that very much because this is a valuable program for the students, and it's great to watch.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very
All right,
much.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
And so we'll go back to the regular under the reports. Taylor, do you want to give us a report?
Yeah, so I haven't been here in a bit, but because I've been sick, but a lot of the library and the cafetorium opened up after winter break, and it's been really cool. I personally love the library now that I can go in and there's furniture in there, and I can go and sit, and students love using that area. And the Newmarket Drama Club will be having a play on called The Fault in Our Stars this spring, and the math team starts meeting tomorrow. Has started meeting on Fridays from 2:30 to 4:30, and their first meet is February 13th at St. Thomas. So for sports, the co-ed unified basketball has had a game today. versus Portsmouth, and their next game is, I believe, Monday, January 27th at 4 p.m. And the girls varsity basketball and boys varsity as well has a home game. The girls is on 5:30 and the boys is at 7 p.m. and they're both playing Colebrook Academy. Swim team also has a dual meet this week. It's kind of late if you want to come. It's at 8 p.m. at the UNH Swayze pool. And varsity indoor track also has a meet this Sunday, January 26th at 2 p.m. also in the same building.
Great.
So.
Thank you. School committee reports. I'll go first. We had a building committee meeting on Tuesday. Seems like it was last night, but not much terribly new to report there. Everything is still on schedule to be, most of the 1925 wings should be completed in and around April. So that's still on schedule. The project completion is still in June. We're still on budget. And there's really nothing, thankfully, nothing else to report. Any other committees? No? I know Elizabeth's gone. She's on vacation. So, okay. Superintendent report.
Okay, just a couple of things I thought would be worth mentioning. And we have a lot of committees that folks have volunteered to participate on, members of the community, staff, some students as well, and various committees, and we're actively launching those this week. So we're really excited to report that. There'll be some information coming out again about who's on those committees. We have a place on our website now that's a quick link to the committees and those who are participating on it. So if there's any member of the public who wants to know who they might want to contact about any of those, they can find that easily on the website on the quick links. So I thought I'd mention that.
Still time to join?
Well,
Time's running out?
yeah, so the committees have been set, officially set, and the work is actively beginning now. So certainly if somebody has an interest, we'll try to fold them in some way, but yep, the committees are full and set. Certainly we could always use a few more student representatives on those. So if you're interested, any of you out there, please send me an email. In particular on the Program and Studies Committee and the Student Handbook Committee, those would be great ones to get some student voice involved in. We do have one student involved in that, but I think to have a few more wouldn't be a bad idea. So, but yep, we're launching those. The facilitators have the members of those groups and some resources, and they'll be setting up meetings in the next week to get those off and running. A couple of other things. Sunday, of course, we have Hot Shots, so anybody that enjoys that program, know that that begins at 3 o'clock on Sunday, but I understand if you don't get there beforehand, then you may not get a seat, so I thought I'd give a shout out to that. We also have Poetry Out Loud coming up the week after that, and I'll be a judge. That's on a Monday, and that'll be at the junior senior high school as well. On our early release day in February, which will be before we meet, I think that's on the 5th, that we have the immigration program, simulation program over at the elementary school. So anybody that has an interest in that, please feel free to join us. And that would be in the morning. In the afternoon, we'll have some professional development activities going on for staff. A couple of other things I thought I would mention in case you're not a parent of an elementary school student. We had sent out before the holiday a preliminary transition plan, how we would cover administratively during this transition period. So Mr. Pine, of course we all know, is the interim principal at the junior senior high school, and Principal Raffo has stepped over at the elementary school, but there's a few parts of that we hadn't really figured out how we were going to cover. So Principal Raffo sent an email out on Friday to those that are in the elementary school to let them know that we have further, our plan has further evolved, and so Patricia Kinsella, who's in the SAU, who's been doing some senior level work for us, is going to be taking over the responsibilities for data management. Erica McNeil, who is our Director of Student Services, will be down at the elementary school 2 days a week unless she has court or some other thing that calls her away from that. Of course, I'm there 1 day a week anyways. And then Shayna Thorell and a few other teachers have stepped up to take on some additional responsibilities after their workday. Title I coordination, for example, My Learning Plan, which tracks all of our professional development. Some other teachers have stepped up to take on some LEA roles away from Christina. So we feel like this iteration will help us get that much closer to filling in some additional administrative responsibilities. And I thought, since some of you don't have elementary school students, that I'd share that out here at the meeting in case folks were interested. Also, the other thing we had talked about in our administrative meeting is the hiring cycles that are in front of us. And so there's 3 phases to the hiring cycle. Phase 1 happens now. So there's positions that we know that we have open for next year. Some administrative positions that we currently have open this year that we need to fill. But so cycle 1 will begin in the next week, and those are for all positions that we're aware we're going to need to fill July 1. So to give you an idea, of course, we have our high school principal search coming up. We have a business administrator search. Our facilities director, we're going to try to fill that before this year's out. But in terms of teaching positions, we have the Spanish teacher at the high school. That's open for next year. That was filled, is filled in an interim way this year. We have our computer science teacher at the junior senior high school, which also was filled with a 1-year position. We have 2 speech and language positions open, one at the elementary, one at the high school, junior senior high school. We have a 2nd grade teacher position open, preschool teacher position open. And I think those are all the absolutely known at this moment positions. Of course, in the business office, we're short 2 people, the accountant, which is currently closing tomorrow, the applications for that, and the administrative assistant to the business administrator. So those positions are currently posted, those 2, and our screening process will begin next week to fill those. So those will be filled now, and then there's a few positions that we'll do. So that's cycle 1. Cycle 2 happens in April. So folks that apply in various school districts around this area for these openings that are in the cycle 1 phase may get one of those positions, which will then mean those positions will open in the various school districts around to backfill those. Also, teachers who are thinking about retiring have until April to tell us whether or not they're going to move forward with retirement at the end of this year. So then we may have some folks that move or for other reasons will not be returning. So that's cycle 2. And then at the end of those positions will be filled by people in the profession, and that'll open up a 3rd cycle of hiring. So last year you didn't get in with the cycle 1. You were behind the 8 ball on the cycle 2s, and we wound up in the middle of the summer with many more vacancies than we'd want to fill. And of course the candidate pool is very lean when you get there, so this is kind of taking advantage of the timing of when candidates are looking, when openings are available, and then pacing our hiring process to make sure that we're getting the best candidates we can. So I wanted to mention that we had those conversations. I'll be doing a little workshop on screening, the screening process for those that are going to facilitate that. We've identified who's going to facilitate those various searches. So we're really rocking and rolling, lots going on. So thought I would share that information with you tonight as well. So that is my report.
Questions, comments, anything? Okay. Just going back on the agenda, I'm going to open it up to public comment. If anybody has a public comment they'd like to approach, please do so. Okay. No public comment, so we'll move on to the review. We have on for tonight a first reading or a review of purchasing policies. These policies relate to minimum amounts required in order to put where you need to put a purchase out to bid. It could be services, it could be goods or anything. I did some research around the area, and most districts now are at $10,000. We're at $2,500, which is kind of difficult, and it proved difficult during the building project too. But I think we want to take a look at that, the $10,000 minimum. And obviously, if there's an item that needs to be purchased that's in that range or something, and we don't know the precise price, probably the better practice would be to put it out to bid, per this policy, if it's, right around the limit. So I included all of those policies in tonight's agenda packet. I would just ask everybody to take a look at them. We got to do a first reading, and then if at the board's pleasure, we can come back at the next meeting and vote on it and further discuss it. Okay? So if there's no further comments on that, I move on to, we have a school board superintendent team building book that we've been reading or started to read. And I'd just like to open up. We're supposed to read chapter 1 for tonight and discuss it. And I'll just open it up. And Susan, I know you read it, and I read it, and looks like everybody else has. So do you want to start with your thoughts?
Well, I think one of the things that I really liked about this is in the introductory section, how they laid out in a little table there for us, the superintendent member and the superintendent and the board's kind of roles, in a way that maybe is a little bit different than we had seen before. I think some of the comments were consistent with some of the articles that we read, reinforcing the idea that, when we work together as a team, that we have better programming in place. When we tie, as we did this year, our goals at the board level connect to my goals at the superintendent level, which are connected to the building level goals, that, with that alignment, we can make, progress in a way that provides for transparency and, strategic improvements throughout our district. So it talked a lot about, the value of having us work as a team, but also understanding that there's certain functions you perform, there's certain functions I perform, and if we can help support one another in doing our work, that good things happen for our kids. Talked about, picking continuous improvement steps. So I thought that was all, really valuable information, but not inconsistent with the other articles that we had read. So I found this to be very readable. I think it did a good job of consolidating, a lot of the information we heard from other authors. And so, those were my initial thoughts when I read through this particular section. I also like that it went into legal perspectives, and talked a little bit about local control and how that influences how we interact with one another. So those were some of the thoughts I had as I read through them.
Yeah, I found the first chapter on legal perspectives and the case for local control to be helpful for me, given that I'm not in the legal field, and am relatively new to the board. So this is something that it's been touched on in other readings, but we haven't really, they haven't really laid it out for us. The case for the local control as opposed to a federal control for our schools. So.
Yeah, it seemed to me like they quoted some of the statistics from and some of the history from some of the other readings we had, like the history of school boards and superintendents. One thing that sticks out to me is that it seems to me that the healthy school board superintendent relationship is a team one, where it relates to strategic and sort of planning aspects. It's akin to a CEO in a corporate board. However, maintaining distinctions on day-to-day functions, right, of operational functions, of things that go on in the schools every day where we need to have separation. We don't want to, as a board, be, unduly influencing or putting our influence in, and it's not always easy. That's, if you read these materials, it's the challenge of every board is to clearly identify their roles and responsibilities. Because in folks, in part of that, and we'll get to it, I think it's the next chapter, is onboarding. And I think we can, we've done some improvement on that, but I think that's an important aspect. When you bring somebody on, nobody really knows how to, what their roles are. They might have an impression that, the board hires and does everything in the district and all this, but it may not be that case, and so that's important. So people get off on the right foot. Those are a couple of my big takeaways, and I did like the quote at the beginning. It must be considered. This is Niccolo Machiavelli. It must be considered that there's nothing more difficult to carry out, no more doubtful of success, no more dangerous to handle than to initiate a new order of things, and this sort of leads to, one of the things we're looking at down the road, and kind of what we're doing here is setting the foundation for a visioning process. These are all the first steps down the road to a community visioning process, which we haven't done as a district in some time. And it's important that we do that, so all of our goals are focused ultimately on those aims. So.
And also, I think it's important to that end to really make sure that we're representing all the stakeholders and their voices are heard. Susan mentioned the committees that are being formed right now. Many of us will be co-facilitating those as board members. Just getting students, when applicable, to come to the meetings, all levels of stakeholders, so everyone has a voice in what we're doing. So that when we get to the visioning process, everyone is behind what the future is going to look like, and understand sort of where we are today in a real way, and how we can get to the next level that we all agree that we want to be to.
Marty?
Right. No, you go.
I was just basically in agreement that, building the team skills and leadership skills required from the superintendent, from the school board, and how we just work together, and like what you said, come up with a vision process and goals to make the schools.
Yeah, I really value, because we have had quite a few volunteers to staff these committees. And so I just want to, we'll be speaking with you, but just shout out to those volunteers that are going to be helping out with all of that, because there's a lot of work on communication. We'll be facilitating that committee on communication, and we need everybody's input. So, and that's a point, and I alluded to this, I think, last meeting, how wait till you get to the end. I think that they make the important point that we need to listen to all viewpoints, and we want to hear all viewpoints, and that's and I think that there's a number of ways that we can do this, and through public comment and through folks emailing us and hopefully working with us on committees to make the improvements that we would all like to see together. So.
And I think that, the thing that we've done through all these articles and this is really focusing on the fundamental principle of helping each and every student develop to his or her fullest potential, whatever that looks like, right. And how we are providing each student with that pathway. Because, one of the things that we have a blessing of is a small school where people can be known and people can get different opportunities. There's some larger schools that don't have robotics clubs, for example. We have that. It's an opportunity for kids to interact with a variety of different students, learn skills. You were talking about the leadership aspect of it, Mike. Those are skills that can help them be good citizens of the world. And, that's one of the many reasons why I sit here as often as we do, because I want to have a small part in helping us make good citizens of the world.
Yeah, and Susan will probably cringe when I say this, but why I said it at the beginning, the committee train is leaving the station. I guess there's still time to get on, but there's lots of folks that we can use community members on those committees. And it's a way to get involved and do some work. I mean, the school board can't do all the heavy lifting on our own, and nor would we want to. We'd want that input from the community, and really it takes a lot of folks to do a visioning effort ultimately, and this would be a good way to start getting involved in that. So.
There's a lot of learning that happens on the committee, so it's not only just taking on a leadership role, but it's also learning a lot about different topics that are important. So in each of the committees, the inquiry will start with learning. What do we know about the various topics? So the committee that's looking at communication will be looking at, what does good communication look like in a school district, and then looking at, what do the parents want? What do the staff want? What do students want in terms of internal communication, so inward-facing communication and then outward-facing communication. We all know that we have some challenges around culture and climate, and the number of staff that have volunteered to be on that is amazing, because it's something that we all know as a professional staff that we want to address these issues head on. But part of that's going to start with, let's understand what culture is, and let's understand what climate is, and how does that impact the learning environment for students. And so we'll be, doing some reading, and we'll, ask ourselves some difficult questions. We'll look at data that we've gathered, and see if we can't identify, ways in which our community right now is exhibiting, positive culture and climate elements, and then where's some areas where we can do some more work. And so there's a lot of learning that's involved, but it also builds the capacity of the people that are on the committee to understand what an inquiry looks like, and how that inquiry results in improvements to the teaching and learning environment for students and staff and our community at large. Another one of the committees is the entry plan committee, and so we're going to be looking at what is the baseline, where are we at here when we're looking through the lens of professional culture, when we're looking through parent and community engagement, how are we measuring along those lines, instructionally, where are we at, what kinds of things. And we've talked about some curricular deficiencies, and there's other areas that we want to take a little deeper dive, so that we know where are we at. So when we go through the visioning process, it's this is where we'd like to be, this is where we are, and then the strategic plan is the journey to accomplish that vision. And so the work that we're doing this year is really a foundational work to being able to engage on a much grander scale in the upcoming couple of years, by building the capacity of people, but putting the structures in place, communication pieces in place. For example, building a positive professional culture that supports high quality teaching and learning. If you don't have trust, if you're not working in a cooperative way, then you're never going to be able to make the kinds of changes that we would like to. As Drucker said, and Daggett, Dr. Daggett says, that culture trumps strategy, and it absolutely does. If you don't have a healthy culture, then people aren't going to be willing to take the risks necessary to make the kind of changes that we need to make in our field today, to prepare our kids for this very complex world they're going to face when they leave. It's not the same as it was when I went to school, or anybody here who's gone to school. They're facing some really challenging problems, and we need to provide them, with the proper skills to be able to navigate in this very complex world. So very exciting work. I'm thrilled that we're getting these launched. And then at the building level, we have other learning that's going on. What do we mean when we're talking about best practices around restorative practices, trauma-informed schools? There's a lot of reading that we need to be doing. We'll also be translating some of this reading and learning back into our professional development days. So there'll be portions of the day that are dedicated to doing committee work, and a portion of the day that's going to be dedicated to doing this work around our culture and climate. So those will be the topics that will be taking place throughout the rest of our year around our professional learning journey for the year. So all of this ties together so that the work that we set out in our goal setting process throughout will align with the work that we're doing, and how our support structures, i.e. our PED days, are also going to help support the work that we have before us. So it's very exciting. You know, I know inquiry groups are kind of a new kind of process and protocol for school improvement here, and so we're taking some baby steps into it to build the capacity of all the people that are on the group to understand how you go about making systemic changes at the level that we're going to be looking at in the future. So
Susan, I want to thank you for sitting down with me on Monday to raise my capacity on how I'm supposed to facilitate this group, because, you know, that's not my thing that I do every day. I work at home by myself. So it's just so exciting to hear you talk about data-driven things and inquiry groups and even some tech things that will facilitate things and make them quick that I would not have known had you not shared them with me. So, you know, I left there saying, you know, we have a big task, but the task is doable, and I'm going to give it my best. And so I just appreciate you taking that time with us on Monday to go through your visions for these so that we can share them with the committees when the time comes.
Plus, we're gonna have a lot of fun.
That's right.
We are.
Inquiry groups are a lot of fun. They really are, because learning is fun, and I think that's part of what's been beaten out of education over the course of time, especially with No Child Left Behind and some of the federal mandates, that students and human beings have the love of learning built into them, right? And oftentimes, you know, it seems like, you know, when I hear kids say, "Oh, I hate school," well, and it saddens me, because learning is pleasurable to the human soul. And so this is about reintroducing the idea of learning as being fun, exploring our curiosities, sharing with one another, which creates a deeper learning experience for all. That all voices matter, that we all grow and learn from the variation of our experiences that are then brought to bear on whatever problems that we're trying to address. So I'm very excited. I think people will have a lot of fun with this. It's meaningful work. You'll gain something out of it for yourself, and we'll see the results and improvements that will be very visible in the next year, for our students, for our staff, for our community. So
Thank you, Susan.
exciting stuff.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so we are now under action items. We have minutes from January 9th and January 11th in the packet.
I move that we approve the minutes for January 9th and January 11th, 2020 meetings.
I second.
I didn't see anything pop out or any changes that are necessary.
I saw one.
Did you see one?
Yep.
Where did,
Because, you know, I picky.
how you roll?
So it's on page 3 of the 9th minutes. The one of the speakers, the first name is incorrect. So that should be
Weird.
Zoe McGurk.
Ah,
But she is Zoe McGurk later on, but in the first one.
good catch. Anything else?
Oh, it was page 2?
No, 3.
Page 3.
Oh, page 3, sorry.
If nothing else, first of all, Sarah, thank you for the minutes. Second
Thank
of
you.
all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all approved unanimously. And then, we have next the approval of the 2020, 2021 warrant articles, which are also in your packet. And we've been through these before. There are no changes. There can't really be any changes at this point. They've been presented to the Budget Committee. If there are any questions, we can entertain those now. If none, can I have a motion to approve those warrant articles?
So moved.
In a second.
I'll second that.
Okay, any further discussion? Nothing? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
No.
Aye. It's unanimous. And we've all signed the budget. I don't
Yep.
know if Elizabeth will have to sign that when she gets back, I
Okay.
guess, yeah.
Did you sign the thing?
We did, and it's in the
It's in this
folder,
one,
everything's
okay.
right there, yeah, I should have everything. And then, as I noted, we have on item, Roman 3D, approval of those policies. We have to do a first reading, and we'll address those at the next meeting. And then, can somebody make a motion, and let's make sure we all sign before we leave, the manifests?
I move that we accept the total of all manifests of $582,907.16.
Second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
It's approved. And the last item on our agenda for tonight is, we have two donations. One for the Model UN team and one for the swim team. The Model UN team is for $2,000 and the swim team one is for $1,000. And we do have to approve those, and I just want to thank the anonymous person there for that donation, those donations. It's helpful. I went to the swim meet last weekend, and it's pretty neat. You know, that's what is it, 2 years old, Taylor? Two?
This is our third year. so
Third
yeah.
year. And they really, it's provided a great opportunity for kids, and Oyster River's been great combining with us. I've been to the awards ceremony both years now, and they treat us like one of their own. They've been really great. So thanks to Oyster River for that, and it provides yet another opportunity for kids to get out and do something. And I think we started lacrosse again, so yet another opportunity. Thank Nicole and Mickey for coaching. It takes a lot of time. They volunteer that time to do that, and they have practice at 5 in the morning on Fridays. They got to be in the pool at 5, and then late at night,
Don't mention that.
couple nights a week, till 10:30. So it's a commitment, but it's a great thing. So, and I could say the same thing about the Model UN team. They're going to New York, next month?
Yeah, March, actually, yeah, it starts March 2nd,
Yeah. Yeah, they're going to the actual UN, and
Yeah.
it's a great program. I mean, they've talked about it in here before, but they have to prepare a position paper. It's due tomorrow, right, Taylor?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a substantive
Yeah.
it's a substantive paper, and that they have to submit, and then they have to go down and they have to do oral arguments and do debates, and they have the kids will stay at a hotel, and they might be called in the middle of the night for a crisis, that they have to deal with, and that they weren't given the problem. They just have to.
Man,
Yeah,
I
they
did
have
not
to.
know that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Sierra actually had to do, I wasn't one of them, luckily, but I remember I was in her room, she got called.
So it's
I think
like
it was
real
at
life.
1 a.m.
Yeah, so you got to do it while you're sleep deprived and under stress, and so it's a great program. Newmarket, I don't want to. Well, let's brag. We did really well in that national competition last year. What did we?
Yeah, so our school got Best Small School, and there were a lot of schools there, so that was pretty cool, all from New York and from all of New England. And then myself and my partner got the Best Delegate Award out of our committee, so that basically means, like, you showed the best, you showed, like, diplomacy throughout the thing, your speaking, how you conducted yourself with other delegates. It was about that, so that was really cool to get, and it was our first big conference, so we were really excited.
So thanks to Mr. McDonald and Mr. Webb for doing that. They volunteered that time, went down to that. I think they're doing it again.
Mr. McDonald is,
Mr.
yes.
McDonald is right, and thanks to Alina Lyon again, who set that program up a few years ago. She runs it over at UNH, and it's a great thing. So, any other comments on that? And we should have a motion to accept those donations.
I'll make a motion to accept the donation to the Model UN and the swim and dive team.
I second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. And I don't think we have a reason to go into non-public. All set?
No, we don't.
Okay, may have a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, we're adjourned. Thank you.